One of the biggest risks we face as parents is burning out. So what does that mean? Well, think about it like you would think about driving a car. Your car needs fuel to drive. And if you start to run out of gas, then you'll get an indicator light signaling to you that you're about to run out of fuel and reminding you to go fill up at a gas station. And if you do that, you'll be fine. But if you don't, you will continue to drive and run the tank empty. And if you're on the highway or somewhere inconvenient, you might get stuck and it becomes a real problem. We are much more complex machines than cars, and we have many fuel sources, from the physical, like getting good nutrition or sleep, to the emotional, like having a project that excites us or having a close friend to talk to. But if we don't refuel our tank and fill ourselves up from time to time, then we run the risk of entering into survival mode. And that's what happens when that light comes on, that indicator, and finally into burning out. As a parenting coach, I have seen so many parents on the brink of burnout, and it's a real issue. So today I want to share with you 10 signs you want to look for that might be telling you that that light has come on, that you're entering into a survival mode time. And next week, I'm going to share a video, a sequel to this, of what we can do to kind of get out of survival mode, how we can handle it until we get back into a mode where we have full energy. Hi, my name is Avital. If you're new around here, I'm the mother of 5. I'm the founder of Present Play. And this topic is so close to my heart because my whole mission here is to help you to love parenting and to parent from love. And it's really hard to enjoy parenting when you're stuck in survival mode or when you burn out. So let's get into this. Number 1 is you are constantly stressed, and you'll feel that stress perhaps manifest in physical ways. Your jaws might feel really tight. You might have, stiff shoulders or pains in your back. Now, there might be other reasons for this, but if you're carrying stress, often in our hips, often in our wrists and arms, if you're carrying a lot of stress, notice if you're constantly holding, right? If you're constantly clenching things, that might be a sign that you are in survival mode. It might be your body sending you a signal. Things like tummy aches, irritable bowels, headaches, those types of things are often signs that we're under too much stress, too much duress, that we're not fueling ourselves. We're not actually running a sustainable system. And so if you're noticing those things, ask yourself if there's, a purely physical reason, or if this might be kind of psychosomatic and our body's way of telling us that we're in survival mode and that we might lead to burnout. Number 2 is that you get triggered a lot, and I mean a lot more than usual. And by triggered, I mean entering fight, flight, or freeze mode. So that's when you find yourself yelling, when you find yourself fighting with your kids, when you find yourself doling out punishments, name calling, getting really, really aggravated. You'll feel flushed, you'll feel your heart pumping, your cheeks going red, sweaty palms, that kind of thing. And if you're getting triggered way more often than you're used to it, like you're suddenly yelling about things that you would usually have more patience for, that might be a sign that you are in survival mode and leading to burnout, right? So all of these signs, the reason I'm sharing them is because you've got to notice the signs as they build up so that you can make a change. Next week, I'm going to tell you what kind of change to make. But now I really just want you to start to notice, am I getting triggered a lot more, right? Or am I getting a lot more aches and pains and funny feelings in my body, stress accumulating in my body? All right, it's time for a wardrobe change. We will be right back. Number 3 signal that you might be entering towards burnout is that you're having trouble taking care of basic needs. So things like your basic sleep needs, your basic nutrition needs, primarily for yourself. You're probably still somewhat managing to do that for your kids, but maybe you are feeling basic things of just really, really baseline self-care not being taken care of because you're in survival mode, and you're the first thing that you sacrifice often when you're in survival mode, right? We often first start to neglect ourselves. As parents, we're totally wired to continue to take care of our children, but our basic needs start to slip. And so if it's been a long time that you're still not catching up on your sleep or getting a rest or a nap, or that you're still not taking care of something that's really important, like your health, then that might be a sign that you are kind of teetering towards burnout, and you really need to start to take that seriously. And that can be so hard to do because, of course, when we're in survival mode, we have less resources, we have less ability to take care of self-care. I mean, self-care might sound like a distant dream. You're so busy and you're so stressed and you have so much responsibility and so much on your plate. And it's kind of like that Gandhi quote that on the days that I don't have time to meditate for 1 hour, I have to meditate for 2 hours. Because as we enter into survival mode and burnout becomes a real risk, our self-care becomes even more important. It's kind of paradoxical and almost a bit of a cruel joke, but it's something that we want to try as much as we can to take seriously. Again, next week I'll share some strategies for that. Number 4, signal that you're in survival mode is that everything feels urgent. So kind of a little bit like being triggered easily. You're also probably being flabbergasted or feeling this sense of tension or friction or stress or worry or emergency more frequently, right? Things kind of loom large. You might know that feeling when you're terribly sleep deprived and things seem a lot more dramatic than they would had you been well rested. That's what happens when we're in survival mode, which of course doesn't help us think straight about what our priorities are and how to navigate this stressful time. So if things are looming really large and feeling really urgent, that might actually not be because they're so large and so urgent, but because your dashboard indicator has come on to show you that you need to refuel. The next one is that you might feel like you are carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders and everything's stacked very precariously. And if one thing slips, then everything's gonna come crashing down. So it's actually this kind of sense of pending doom. You kind of feel like you're about to lose your mind, or like you're about to have a nervous breakdown, or like you're about to burn out. And that will look differently for everyone. But if you have that kind of uncomfortable feeling like this can't go on, I can't carry on like this forever, everything's about to come crumbling down, and a feeling like everything's interconnected. Like if I drop this one ball that I'm juggling, then I'm going to drop everything. And, you know, my work will suffer, my parenting will suffer, my marriage will suffer, my health will suffer. We kind of feel like we're going to crash everything all at once. Number 6 is that you feel like you're failing. So many of us have a failing self-talk, a talk where we think, I'm messing this up, I'm not good enough, I'm a screw up, you know, all of that stuff. And that might be our self-talk from childhood or some kind of pattern that we've developed. But when we are in survival mode, it becomes a much louder voice. You suddenly feel like you're truly failing. It feels truly dramatic and urgent and like an emergency. And you're just playing this terrible tape in your head all the time. I'm failing. I let that down again. I missed that one again. You know, I didn't meet my goals again. I haven't made that change again. Kind of like every day you feel like, oh, today I promised myself I wouldn't yell and I did. Today I promised myself I'd give them a healthy meal and I didn't. And so this kind of repetitive self-talk of failure is often not because you're failing, it's because you're in survival mode and you don't have enough resources, you don't have enough fuel and energy to keep going. So it feels like things are kind of grinding to a halt and it becomes this downward spiral, right? Because the less gas you have, the more you're using up the rest of your gas, and it feels increasingly urgent, because it kind of is, right? We are very complex creatures, but we're also not so complicated in the sense that if you don't refuel yourself, right, both physically and emotionally, then eventually you run out of fuel. And that is what burnout looks like, right? It looks like just apathy or kind of a nervous breakdown or being unable to function on a basic level. For some people, it even looks like hospitalization. And so we want to take these signals seriously when they come up as much as we can. And that's so difficult because we don't have the support that we need in order to take them seriously, but hopefully I can help you with some tactics for that here. The next one is that you're stuck in the present moment, but not in a mindful way, not in a I'm in the now kind of Zen way, but rather in a way that you're frantically putting out fires right now. So you can't think about tomorrow, you can't plan for the future. And often being able to plan, being able to cast a vision, being able to really make steps and lay out a path for reaching a goal is a crucial aspect of a sane, well-balanced life, right? We need to be able to put things on our calendar, to schedule things out, to see how long things will take realistically. But when we're in survival mode, it's from this moment to the next. It's like, I can't even think about dinner because I just have to figure out lunch, right? And we're very much stuck in right now, which again exacerbates the problem because many of our problems need a little bit of forethought and a little bit more planning as we go along. The next one is feeling really isolated, feeling really alone in this problem, feeling misunderstood. You might be feeling like everybody else has it together and you're the only one who doesn't. And when you feel so isolated and alone, like everything is on you, you're the one who has to solve this by yourself, right? You might even enter into a bit of a superhero syndrome where you see all these problems crashing down around you, but you think you're the only one who can solve them and you have to do so in isolation. And when you're in survival mode, we often forget our interconnectedness, we forget our network. Maybe we actually isolate ourselves from our network, from our friends, from our family, because we're in such a negative place, right? We're even less likely to accept help. We feel less worthy, we feel like a failure, we feel like we won't be able to reciprocate, and so we don't accept the help. Maybe we feel ashamed, and so we don't want people to see us when we're vulnerable, when we're down, and it becomes really, really difficult to ask for the help that we need, and so we feel even more isolated. So if you're feeling increasingly lonely, and not just because you're in lockdown or in quarantine, but because you're not actually reaching out, you're not actually sharing what's going on, you're not normalizing it and feeling like other people are going through similar things as well, or like other people are there for you, that might be actually because you're in survival mode that you're behaving that way, right? It's kind of this curling into our shell because we're having a hard time. This leads us to point number 9, which is feeling helpless and like you'll never get out of this. When we're in survival mode, it's hard to imagine what it will be like on the other side of this. It's hard to remember ourselves as energetic and vibrant and capable and living a life that we can manage, that we can cope with, that we feel equipped for, right? Because that's kind of how feelings are. When you're in them, it's very hard to imagine being out of them. And once you're out of them, we hardly remember what it was like being in them, right? Like if you're starving, hungry right now, once you've eaten, once you're satiated, you're just not in that hunger feeling anymore and you're not connected to what it feels like. And when you're very, very hungry, it's hard to imagine what it will feel like when this hunger goes away. So right now, if you're in survival mode, you're feeling that hunger, you're feeling like that lack, right? That emptiness. Something that needs to be filled, something that needs to be changed. And what that is you need more resources, you need more support to manage your responsibilities, because really the level of expectations in our life always has to match the level of support, right? If we have expectations that we're going to keep a clean home, cook meals, work, be productive, look good, feel good, be great parents in the way that we want to be, all of those stuff needs certain resources. We need certain support for that, right? It might be other people, it might be time, it might be money, it might be energy. We need resources in order to be able to function. When our resources have been diminished and they don't match our level of expectation, that's when we feel that hunger, right? That's when we go into survival mode and we start to conserve the energy and things start to feel very urgent and pressed and we are in lack, not in abundance. And that can leave us to feel very helpless, like we're going to be here forever, like this is just our life now, kind of defeated or resigned to that reality. And the final point, point number 10, is that when you're in survival mode, you will consistently feel like you can't measure up to your own expectations or to other people. And that's because of what I just explained, that you can't meet those expectations because you're under-resourced. You don't have the support that it would take. And so you still have your expectations of yourself. You still think, oh, I want to be a connected parent, or I want to make healthy meals, or I want to keep a clean home, or I want to look good, or I want to be energetic, or I want to do productive work, you still think all of those things in your expectations, but you can't measure up because you don't have the fuel for it. And so in survival mode, you might be on Instagram or seeing other families and compare yourself, and it just hurts that much worse because it suddenly feels like I can't ever do this. I'll never be able to. I can't even just get the basic things together. I can't even just take care of my basic needs. So if any of these things are happening for you right now, first of all, I'm just sending you a huge hug and a lot of support vibes your way. I know what it's like to be in survival mode. I've been there many times myself for many different reasons, right? Maybe your partner's away. Maybe you go through financial downturn. Maybe you're dealing with major life transitions, moving, introducing a new baby into the family. Maybe with major loss, right? Mourning, grieving, anything that rocks the boat and that changes up our level of resources can spiral us into a survival mode, and that can, if gone unchecked, lead to burnout. And that's why this is so important to me, because I want you to just take a moment to notice those signals, and I would never want you to burn out. I would never want you to feel like you're crashing. Sometimes when we're in survival mode, we just kind of let it go all the way, and that deterioration can be dramatically different than just going through a little lull and picking ourselves back up, right? We can really sink into what can be months of depression or months of apathy or giving up on things that are really important, like projects or relationships that are really important to us, but because we're just kind of burning out, we let them go, and sometimes they can't recover from that. And so the important thing is not to let ourselves keep going down that path, but to pull ourselves back and kind of notice it and catch it before it's, I don't want to say too late, but before it gets to a place where the price becomes really high. Burning out is very normal, especially now with all the pressures that all the parents are under. And being in survival mode is, frankly, probably you're in it. Like probably most of us are in it for one reason or another during this time. And so notice it, notice those signals, and make a promise to yourself that you're going to get yourself to re-energized, right? To refueling yourself as soon as possible. I'm gonna let you know how I think one can do that in the next video, or really how we can conserve our energy, because sometimes there's nothing you can do, but you can conserve your energy. What I do when I'm in survival mode just to get through it so that I don't burn out, I'll let you know that in the next video. Meanwhile, hit the subscribe button, give this video a like if it was helpful for you, and please share it with any parents who you know are also having a challenging time right now, because who isn't, frankly? All right, thanks so much. Keep on loving parenting and parenting from love. And you're not sure if you're about to... Should we put you like this? Do you want to put your tum-tum like this? You need to change your diaper? Let's change your diaper. Oh, crap. Oh my gosh. Boy! For a baby who never spits up, you found your time. Just as we're shooting, my love, huh? Fair enough, fair enough. What can we do? What can you do? You feel better, don't you? Oh my goodness, you feel better. All right, it's time for a wardrobe change. We will be right back.